that the United States is not only willing to sacrifice the last Ukrainian, but to the last German factory. We're in the total Russian victory phase. Russia has been slow to start. The West has never fully comprehended what the special military operation meant. We tried to mirror image our way of fighting war, especially using the 1991 Gulf War as an example. Total war up front. We never understood how the Russians felt about Ukraine. We mocked Putin. We mocked every Russian who spoke about the sense of a Slavic brotherhood, why they wouldn't go in full speed. And we've pumped tens of billions of dollars of military assistance and financial assistance, sustaining a Ukrainian government that should have collapsed sometime late spring, early summer. Russia now it's like a very heavy ship. Trying to get a ship to change its direction is difficult. And yet we've succeeded in getting Russia to change its direction. And I think it's all over except the death, the shouting, the destruction, the screaming, the blood, the tears. But it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Russia made its point clear back in December. And I just invite everybody to reread the draft treaties that Russia put on the table on December 17th, NATO and the United States. These were draft treaties. These weren't suggestions. These weren't haphazard thoughts. This wasn't Lavrov scribbling something down on a napkin at midnight. These were well-coordinated, well-thought-out positions by Russia that said, you have pushed us into a corner, and this is it. This is our final go. You want to avoid a war? Right here. And they told the West, read this, sit down, discuss this. Let's talk this seriously. If you don't, it will be a military technical solution. We ignored them. Russia's never taken those proposals off the table. Those proposals, I believe, are the end game. This is why I don't believe there's going to be this cold peace. I don't believe there's going to be a Western Ukraine. If Russia allows a Western Ukraine to survive after this, then Russia has lost the war. If Russia allows a cold peace to survive after this, then Russia has lost the war. Russia's victory is the treaty they put on the table in December, a new European security framework that respects Russia's national security interests, respects the fact that Russia has a legitimate interest in what goes on its borders. The difference between today and what happened during the Soviet times in terms of counterinsurgency is called Chechnya. The Russians know how to win counterinsurgency campaign. They have done it. Chechnya is the example. If anybody had looked at Chechnya back in the 1990s, they would have said that it's far worse than anything that exists in Western Ukraine in terms of hatred of Russia, violence, etc. Look at Chechnya today. That is Western Ukraine in the future. Russia is going to destroy the Banderists. Russia is going to crush the Western Ukrainian nationalism. That is the only way Russia gets victory, and the only people to blame are the West. This is not Russia's fault. Russia didn't want this war. Russia was looking for a peace on the 1st of April that would have been very unsatisfactory to Russia. Very unsatisfactory because it would not have resolved any of the issues. That's how much Russia wanted to avoid the war that's getting ready to happen. This is a slow mobilization. Russia is slow to anger. They're tired of this game. They're tired of what the West is doing. They're tired of the lies. They're tired of the deceit. And they're getting to the point where they're ready to kill because that's the only way this gets resolved. And this is a horrible place to be in because it means just that. People are going to die. The people of Ukraine right now are suffering like they've never suffered before. And that suffering is not going to end. The French and the Germans, they're starting to wake up that the enemy isn't to the east. The enemy is to the west. It's not the Russians that are destroying their economy. It's the Americans destroying their economy. The Americans are stealing their industries, jacking up prices, destroying everything. And only now are they starting to wake up. The rest of Europe has woken up too. The only people that are unified are the lemmings that live in Poland and the Baltics. who seem all too content to be running towards the Russian cliff. And that sooner or later, I think that Europe, the rest of Europe, is going to say, go, run, jump off the cliff. We're not joining you. There is no European unity. And the Russians, and again, Russia did not want this situation. Russia didn't ask for this. This was not a Russian objective. Vladimir Putin is not sitting there in the Kremlin at night saying, how can I destroy Europe? This is not a master Russian plan. This is European incompetence writ large. This is American ignorance. This is a combination of the collective lunacy of the West playing out in real time. So, the only thing that's disconcerting about all this is because of the incoherence of the Western approach, it's hard for us to say, what does the West want? That's the one thing. We know what Russia wants. There is no question about Russia wants. They want a new European security framework that protects them from the vagaries of the West. What does the West want? We don't know. That's the problem. They cannot articulate this. They certainly don't want peace because they could have had that. But they don't want war either because they understand what the consequences are. So they're bouncing around between, in that middle ground here, sacrificing every Ukrainian possible. What's happening to Ukraine is a war crime perpetrated by the West, not the Russians, allowing an entire nation to devolve into the sad state that it is today. I am sickened when I see the lines of women lining up for water. Why is that happening? Why? It's not Russia's fault. Yes, you're going to say, Scott, they blew up the infrastructure. Blew it up because the West insisted on pumping in tens of billions of dollars worth of modern weaponry that slaughtered Russian troops on the front line. Russian troops that didn't want to get into this kind of fight, but they're there now. 200,000 Russians are showing up on the battlefield in the next month. That's 10 to 15 division equivalents, and Ukraine's got nothing to stand up and take them on.